Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the WGL EU Season 1 for 2015 and 2016 Relegation Day. My name is Mitch Leslie. I'm here with Oliver Maxfield. Yesterday, we found our two teams who would be dropping down from our Gold Series into this single elimination 8-team tournament. Now we're going to find out who goes up to the Gold Series and who drops away.
Exactly. So ASAP and No Mercy lost their games yesterday against Ding and Strong Siema. Pretty one-sided results, I have to say. It was a pretty quick evening, only just 2 games. Today we got 3 games, 1 quarterfinals and 2 semi-finals. The final match won't really be played as, it's just for seeding purposes. So, yeah, it's going to be an awesome day. Of course, the top 2 will be joining us in the next season of the Wargaming League Europe for Season 2, of course. Absolutely.
A lot on the line today, and we sort of harped on it yesterday. And, these teams who were facing relegation, potentially facing relegation from the Gold League, for them to sort of lose yesterday as well, it's hard. It definitely plays on your mind. We talked about the same thing with Kazna dropping down into the lower bracket in their playoffs. It can really work against you. We have 6 teams chomping at the bit here to go up against these 2 teams dropping down from the Gold Series for their chance to get through. Let's have a look at the bracket. And I'll break things down for you a little bit more. Of course, it is a 8-team single elimination bracket. We'll be casting 1 game from the quarterfinals, and then we'll cast both semis. So we got No Mercy there, of course, dropping down from yesterday. Neckarbrot, sorry, my German's not that good. The Wild Bunch and Wasp for our first 4 teams.
Yeah, so obviously No Mercy Gold Series team as soon as possible. Gold Series teams there at the top of the 2. Top and the bottom of the bracket. So we're trying to avoid some things, for instance, wildcard teams, which is the Wild Bunch and WUSA playing against each other, Silver Series playing against each other, that kind of thing. So it's pretty random, but there are some rules just to make sure it's all fair. But today's going to be an awesome game. I'm really curious to see if WUSA can pick themselves up after a pretty disastrous season, of course, going automatically relegated and having to play through the wildcard tournament.
That's right, and they'll be the team that we do spectate first, so we will be jumping into the game between Oops die Traffen Giraffen, again, bad English, sorry, Austrian team here. Let's talk about this team as well. Talk about WUSA. There's a lot of story around this game as well, especially considering that WUSA kind of put themselves in the position of both being in a position where they want to try and fight their way back up in towards the Gold Series, but also the opportunity or the position to sort of gatekeep some of those teams coming out of the Silver Series and the wildcards from getting in.
Exactly, but they have, I think, the hardest match today out of all of them. Of course, WUSA being pretty weak. They got FKK Schnitzel again, of course, was a staple to their team for a very long time. Joined Kazakh, who seemed to have some gelling issues and is back with his old team here. So I think that's going to give them a boost. But, playing that second seed from Silver Series, just being bested by a very small margin by Carmen's team, I think it's going to be one of the best games today. Of course, we've got 2 semi-finals after that, which are also going to be fantastic.
Let's delve into this team Oops a little bit more, if we can. Of course, they played through the Silver Series. They were second overall, 29 wins and 9 losses, so that actually left them second. The last game of the Silver Series actually was the most important one.
Exactly. I mean, if they had managed to win that, which they didn't, they lost in a tiebreaker against Out of Range, then it would have been a totally different story for them. They would have been able to play in the Gold Series automatically. They would have been promoted automatically, but Carmen's team did manage to best them very, very close indeed. But I think they are on a very similar level, and if experience tells us the top 3 or 4 Silver Series teams are just as good or almost as good as the bottom 4 Gold Series teams.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the teams that came up from the Silver Series last season, because we have some big teams now in the Gold Series, even one that we're playing at the finals, who fought their way through Silver Series. Tornado Rocks had to play 2 seasons of Silver Series. In fact, I think they were prevented from playing the Gold Series 1 season earlier because of some issues there with the team. Obviously, Ding, the Silver Series team, coming through there. So it's safe to say that these Silver Series teams aren't pushovers by any stretch.
No, definitely not. I think, Ding's had a super upsetting season for them. We saw yesterday a really, really one-sided result for them. They managed to just crush ASAP. And yeah, I think they are going to be better next season. Often we see one season where some Silver Series teams don't do so well. They struggle a little bit, and it just takes them that one season to see what their real issues are, fix them, and then they can go into the next season with a kind of a fresh, clean plate, as long as they get through the relegation part, which of course they managed to do.
Well, standard stuff here for today. What we normally see in our Gold Series, it's the same format for those that are wondering. Best of 9, same sort of map picking and banning process here. We do have our maps for today as well. We are going to be having, I think, Lakeville and Steps, and Lakeville will be our tiebreaker map. Now,
Steps again will be our tiebreaker.
Steps, sorry. So we're going to see a repeat on that one here. WUSA hasn't had a good record on Lakeville at all this season.
No, I mean, they've struggled. ASAP, Kazakru comes to mind. They
Strong beat them on Lakeville.
Strong. They really haven't any good success on this map. But, you know, I hate, you know, drawing comparisons from the Gold Series from games that happened, you know, months ago. In some cases, it's always hard to do because, you know, I think we saw in the pre-playoffs, which we had last week. Last weekend, and we saw in the pre-relegations yesterday that a lot changes, and we see teams picking up maps which they perhaps haven't played or they haven't done so well because there's just not a lot of material on them. The other team can't anti-strat them that easily. So I think it's going to be a really interesting match. I think WUSA will have got their Lakeville kind of strategy more sorted and more finessed in this one. Yeah,
the only reason we pull out Lakeville as an important stat is because during the game between Oops and Carmen's team, of course, that was the map that Carmen team actually got wrecked there. 3-1 over towards Oops in that one. Very strong showing from them. You know, having a speak to some of the teams about their experiences playing up against Oops. They're a team that doesn't like to be sort of pigeonholed or doesn't sort of stick to the status quo. They mix their picks up a little bit as well. They took a KV5 and a Hellcat on the tiebreaker map against Karma's team, which unfortunately kind of bit them in the rear end there. Didn't work out, but they're happy to innovate as well. And we're seeing teams that innovate in the Gold Series are generally having a fair bit of success here. So, you know, what are your thoughts here now when we bring this into play where Oops are strong on Lakeville and WUSA haven't won? In fact, I think they've won maybe 2 rounds, maybe 3 rounds on it all season. Kaz 4-0'd them. Strong were 2-1. ASAP was 3-1 against them on that map.
I think you've got to consider as well, you know, WUSA is lost basically everything this season. I mean, they're in 12th place. So if we're going to look at loss statistics, we can say they lost everything. I mean, that's how it goes, right? When you're in 12th place, you really didn't get any success. So, I mean, if you look through all the maps of WUSA played, they don't have good win ratios. You know, they're sitting around 30 to 40% sometimes, even lower, 20%. So, yeah, okay, they've had a bad result here on Lakeville, but I think this is a different story. I think the pretty one-sided results they had in the wildcard tournaments last Friday, where they managed to just blitz it through in first place, shows us that they're a team that is hungry to stay in the Gold Series. They want to stay in the Gold Series, and they're going to fight for it.
All right. Well, we're going to drop you guys in now to this one. Of course, it's going to be the map of Lakeville. Let's have a look at the map video for your refresher course.
Lakeville, a big summertime map of mixed type. The map can be divided into 3 parts: the town, the canyon, and the road. The teams start the battle on the opposite sides of the town. One of the bases is located right near the defending team's spawn, the other one the bottom of the canyon. Attacks are usually executed through one of the flanks. However, the central pass is also very important. You can get great recon from there. Both heavy and light tanks are commonly brought to Lakeville.
All right, here we go. We're going to jump right into this one. Oops versus WUSA. Oops starting on the red side on the defense here. We see both teams fan out around the city a bit.
Yeah, so we've already got a kill here. Oops has taken down, WUSA has taken down the T21 already. So that's a good start for WUSA. I think that's really what they wanted at the beginning. Get that initial engage, try and get the information out of the way straight away. And obviously, you know, WUSA doesn't have a really good idea of what Oops is capable of, what they can do.
Yeah, of course, so our team names are back to front here. So WUSA is in the red, Oops in the blue. We'll have that one sorted for you for that next round here. But obviously an early casualty for Oops there, losing that T21, going into a fairly common spotting position. Unfortunately, is taken down as he tried to get in there. And now, of course, we see somewhere from Oops here, up towards that valley, trying to get some recon done before those couple of IS3s come trundling down there as well. We see a bit of a split of forces here for Oops, actually, as they keep one IS3 and a 54 lightweight in towards the city. Is this dangerous?
Well, we've seen it before in Lakeville. I mean, so the thing is, when you have any kind of resources, and, you know, it's very indicative when you have a heavy tank there, is that they're basically tempting WUSA into a push. I think WUSA is very much aware that, you know, there's going to be a tank somewhere in the city due to spots, and, you know, they're hoping that WUSA commits their IS-3 to try and take it out, and then the T-54 and the IS-3 of Oops just has to keep them busy. And, you know, if they can push forwards because WUSA doesn't want to go and, you know, take the bait, then that will also be good. So, but I actually like this from WUSA. I mean, they're playing very concentric. They're playing around the southern side. They managed to get the first shell onto the IS-3. Then they retracted back because they just don't want to get an engagement when they're just slogging out with IS-3s and a T-54, which is hull down. So they are going through the middle. And if you really look at the players from WUSA, right, I mean, you've got some really all-star names, and it's kind of a disappointment to me that they haven't been able to perform this season with the players they've got in that lineup. And let's hope they fix those issues, and, you know, they will start putting pressure onto Oops.
Yeah, somewhere, again, sort of the forward player right now for Oops here. Cops a couple of shots, able to bounce both of them actually now. Asish also trying to get involved. Well, Oops have managed to sneak those two IS-3s up towards the south side. So we'll have to see now if WUSA are prepared for that one. Because for now, they're sort of looking towards that middle road. Maybe just now they'll angle over towards that cap number 1, those two IS-3s. It's going to be a 2v2 situation with those IS-3s involved. We'll have to see how that one does go forward. So now Bino Marja is actually leading the charge here. You see on the screen, there's Bino Marja here, pushing up. Clanner, I'm going to call him Clanner, sorry, terrible pronunciation, Australian accent, what can you do? Still Mojo Carvey coming forward here, getting a little bit aggressive. Haven't seen too much of Carvey this season, coming in every now and then. Well, now he does put a shot in towards Bino Marja, and he's going to be cut off from Clanner very, very quickly. You can see WUSA putting their right resources in the right place. They're just going to file in onto this one. And this is the danger in Oops putting up their forces the way they have. Definitely,
but, you know, it really just depends how long it takes WUSA to take down these two IS-3s. Can Oops do enough damage on the other flank, which it seems they are doing. I mean, if you look at the HP, it's still firmly in favor of Oops. They're doing good damage to that right side. They kept the IS-3 well, they're at least pretty close in HP. I mean, they kept the IS-3 over there, so it is managing to take down Vetlion. So I would say this game is still pretty close. I think Grosser, you know, a great player, a very well-known player, will be able to take him down. But then WUSA, again, they have managed to retract back in time, and it's going to make it hard for these T-54s.
Sanyo and Grosser moving up here. Grosser taking a couple shots, as well as now WUSA turn their heads towards the other flank and deal with the push of these two lightweights. Fighter line is able to sustain through a lot of the damage coming towards him. He will get the kill towards Grosser as well. Sanyo, he'll get the finish, but only 3 tanks left now for Oops. Somewhere has been inching his way up middle for the last minute or so now, just hoping not to be spotted here. Very interesting split of paradigms here for Oops. We see Somewhere being a bit more passive, and the aggressiveness happening over towards the south for Oops with that IS-3 of Ducky and Sanyo. But now they only have 3 tanks to work with here, up against 5. And WUSA still have a very, very big front line to deal with.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is just really going to be hard now for Oops to get into, though. You can see just the overmatch. I think the best idea from Oops would just to be simply get control of that middle road. They got a T-54 there, which is okay, but they need to take down Durs and Nichter. And if Durs just goes in on his own like he has been doing quite a few times this season, I think that T-54 will be able to take him down, as, you know, he's got Sanyu and he's got Ducky there towards that right side as well to provide some cover. But still, you know, double IS-3 from WUSA, very hard to take care of, despite still Mojo being on 674 HP. They're just playing it slow, they're playing it carefully, and they only need to get 1 reset or 2 resets to actually just get the win on this one.
There are no second chances in this single elimination bracket. If you lose that series, you are out. And it makes sense for WUSA to be maybe taking their time a little bit more here now, as Carvey is going to be pushing across the face of Somewhere. He's not looking at him though, he gets a shot elsewhere over towards FKK Schnitzel and does chunk him down a little bit now. Ex-Kazna player being moved into the 54 lightweight here of WUSA. And you can see the crossfires coming in here. Not bad, Carvey does go down here as time sort of ticks away. And I think Oops having to reset that cap, not able to complete that one. Now they're going to get aggressive. You can see Somewhere go looking towards FKK Schnitzel. He wants to get the finish, but no, still Mojo is there to clean him up. 2 tanks left for Oops right now. Ducky's in a fairly safe spot with only 1 minute and 3 seconds left. You can't cap with a single tank within that time frame. And Sanyo now has to face a music up against Spoink here. Head to head, Spoink will get the finish there. Very close to dead. But Oops are running out of resources here. There's really not much that they can orchestrate with this many tanks.
No, exactly. I mean, they did a really good job though. I mean, I really like the individual skill from Oops. It was pretty fantastic. But Ducky might just have reload to take down FKK Schnitzel. He almost certainly will. But it's still going to be a hard thing for him to be in a good position to take down Zanik, who can just run. Obviously, you know, you can see WUSA on the defensive side, so they just have to draw this game out, and Ducky just cops one there in the rear end. 297 damage, a lot of a very high roll from him and managed to get lucky on that second track. But yeah, this is very much game over.
Ducky's hoping for a light on Derzanistra as well. IS-3s have a very short view range there as far as tanks are concerned, about 330 meters. He probably wouldn't have lit him there anyway. So that shot towards the rear there from Derzanistra, I think, really helped out. Interesting stuff from Oops here as well. It's not often that you see teams sort of coming out of, for us anyway, obscurity and testing a team like WUSA. It won't be an easy match for them.
No, definitely won't be. But, I mean, that was just a game of just WUSA being able to read Oops. I mean, seriously, they did everything right. Like, they knew the timings perfectly on Oops. They saw that they're going to push that trench side straight away. Excuse me? I got something in the back of my throat. But as I was saying, you know, they knew they were going to go there. They had the perfect timings. They had the T-54s right in that position, and then they knew that the T-54 of Summer would go around the middle. They didn't get any spots on him, and then they just pushed down with the IS-3s. They took down the two IS-3s of Oops, who were just sitting there ready to come from the flank. So it was just a game of perfect prediction from WUSA. They knew exactly what Oops was going to do. They systematically took down each angle of Oops. You know, clearly their plan was to come from that valley, from the middle, and from that eastern city at the same time, and kind of surround WUSA from every front and just take them down that way. But you know, they got a couple of their flanks broken down.
WUSA definitely at this stage looking to stave off relegation and get themselves back off into that gold series. Good start for them there in that first map. We did see, obviously, you know, Oops losing a tank early on in the piece. A T21 dropped down. I mean, it looked close at the end. You have to say, sure, WUSA's executions were good. I mean, the way that they sort of took that fight against the IS-3s in the valley, they overmatched that really nicely. They got those two off the map fairly quickly. Could it have been cleaner, though, for WUSA there? It definitely seemed like it was getting a little bit tight towards the end.
For sure. I mean, this is classic WUSA. They always seem to screw up that last, you know, let's say minute and a half, 2 minutes of the game, where it should just be a matter of cleanup, but it's still, you know, tanks. You still have a lot of factors you have to take into account. A game's not won until it's won at the end of the day. And, you know, it definitely wasn't part to Ducky doing 2.8k damage there in his IS-3, just being a good pivot in the middle of the map, playing some good tanks, doing some good damage. And, yeah, I mean, I think that's reassuring for Oops, because they managed to bring it that close, even though they lost the T21 at the beginning. Yep. They lost two IS-3s for nothing. And it was a 2 versus 1 situation, where the IS-3, you know, was in a pretty bad spot.
It's a heck of a lot of damage for that IS-3 of Ducky. The shame is that Bina Majo actually didn't get any damage at all in that game. Didn't do any damage. So we saw him. He was at the front of that IS-3 column, sort of making that push on towards that southern cap. Must have choked up a bit there. I mean, we did see him get pushed onto by 5 tanks, so you can die very, very quickly in an IS-3 in that position. But, you know, had things been different, had he had the chance to do some more damage, then who knows? It could have been a different story. The highest damage on WUSA was FKK with about 1,800. So Ducky, with an absolute Goliath performance for his team there, the potential's there. The players definitely seem to be good enough here for Oops, and why wouldn't they be after their performances in the Silver Series? But they've just got to make those ends meet. They've got to make the connections, especially on those shots as well, and get them more damage, and just, you know, execute a little bit cleaner.
I think, you know, you got to remember as well, Oops definitely got the hard end of the stick here, because they are playing WUSA, who previous seasons have been very good. Yep. This season been very shaky, but I think they realized that. Had a kind of a break of good luck with that wildcard issue, and, you know, managed to get through that. So I'd say as well, with the inclusion of FKK Schnitzel, they have that whole Nia Pizzorni factor, which they'd be missing. You know, they miss that one, you know, really standout play. You know, no offense to Designictor and Carvey and all that, but, you know, they always seem to be lacking like a good pivot, and Assis just simply couldn't make up for it, despite being a good team captain. So I'm so far impressed with WUSA. I think they're playing pretty decently, but we'll see.
See Honey Frack at the bottom of the screen there in the T21. It's a more passive spotting position for that one. I haven't seen that one before from Sish either, as he does squeeze up there on towards that hill in that T37. Because that we like about WUSA, but they definitely know how to come up with some cheeky little tactics. Be interested to see how this fairly passive push forward for Oops does sort of eventuate here. Obviously on the attacking side, they have to come forward. You can see Honey Frack is just sort of sitting back right now. There's actually a rock a little bit further up, about 100 meters ahead, which could also be used to spot Nash Boink and FKK Schnitzel as well. Maybe getting a bit of a read on their opponents who haven't played Oops, or at least not in sort of proper tournament matches yet. So, definitely trying to collect some information, whereas Oops have had time to study WUSA. We've seen a lot of their games. In fact, we've seen all of their games this season, of course. So, plenty of material for them to have gone over. It does make sense for them to pick this map as well, one that they generally feel quite confident on, but it's going to take a little bit more than just going for your comfort map. Oops pushing up with his IS-3s now through the city. It's a lot of them. It's going to be a very heavily armoured tank column now pushing towards the north, but Seish is in a decent spot to spot this out. Yeah,
and Vitline is going to be the most important factor here for WUSA for sure. I mean, the guy is going to be hold down the T-32. He needs to be doing a lot of work, and Seish has just got to scamper out there as quickly as possible. Does manage to avoid at least one shell. Grossa finds it, but good play there by Oops. Finds at least one kill, and this is the switcheroo. WUSA lost, managed to kill Oops as tier 6 at the beginning. This is a different story. But then, Seish should find exactly where basically the whole of Oops is, and it's going to be on the T-54 in the middle, you can see, and if that T-54 can stave off Spoink, if he can stave off FKK Schnitzel for his T-54s to do some work.
All right, now Spoink on your screen here. So the flank has been sort of set, I guess, by WUSA. Maybe a little bit later than you might expect. Sanyo is going to get up from behind the Derzanikja coming in towards him. Shots coming in from the city, though. That's a good bit of damage to respond on towards a 54 lightweight, but Sanyo will find himself beleaguered in just a moment. You can see Derzanikja and FKK Schnitzel trying to use that rock for a bit of cover. They don't know exactly where Oops is set up in the city, so they have to guess, but they managed to sustain through that one fairly well. However, a lot of damage being taken now. The main push is on. Ducky coming forward. Fight to line able to avoid any damage with a hull down position of the T-32, but Honeyfrack coming in from behind as well. Maybe looking to put some shots in the rear here. He's just doing a scouting run, so going to back away. Does take a hit now, and still Mojo takes one as well. It's a very, very tough nut to crack. Is the main force of Oops right now as they push up. Susceptible to flanks, yes, but they can go head-to-head with these guys. As Ducky does take another big hit, and they push on.
What's going to be weird right now is if Grossa and Spoink can actually have a good duel, and I got a funny feeling that Honeyfrack should join Grossa and try and get Spoink down as quickly as possible, because the worst thing that can happen for Oops is to have that T-54 in the background killing them. But this is going well for Oops. They're doing a lot of damage. The only problem is when they do go around this corner, the two T-54s are just sitting in the middle, and they will be able to engage. And of course, Kavi, still Mojo, but Line can just reverse backwards, because Oops they don't have any IS-3s around the corner on the northern side.
This is the problem now. Oops have exposed themselves to those two 54 lightweights sitting on that middle road, and they're going to receive a lot of shelling from them, actually, as Dizzy could also go down. Spoink gets a finish on him somewhere, tracked up as he tries to get a shot on towards Kavi. They need to finish. They need to not be spotted by these lightweights in the middle. This could be very nasty for them now, but the response comes in, and Kavi does go up in a plume of smoke. Now Klana trying to move out as well. He gets taken down, and Oops is starting to capitulate here a little bit, falling apart now. Bino Marja trying to get a shot towards Still Mojo. Somewhere should be looking for the finish as well. They do get it. The quick double tap secures that one. But Oops with only two IS-3s left. Bino Marja takes a lot of damage coming in from those lightweights. That DPM is damn good. And somewhere left on his lonesome, all right, in the middle of the map.
Yeah, so Grossa went down against Spoink. That allowed Oops a little bit more breathing room, because the FKK Schnitzel and Derzanikja were shooting at Grossa instead of the IS-3s. But once he went down, it was game over. Like Oops' execution was very lackluster. They didn't have the IS-3. They should have kind of either you need to overmatch just instantly, like you just charge around that corner, you just push onto the IS-3s, you have more tanks than them, you have 3 versus 4 or 2 versus 4, you take down the tanks that are sitting there for WUSA, and then you're okay. Like you can do something with that. The worst thing you could do is what they did is kind of play this peeking game against IS-3s that have hulls around them. They're in a good in cave in that hill area, and so you have the T-54s that are shooting you constantly whilst you're trying to make the odd shot in difficult circumstances. You just want to be in a position where you could all shoot at the same time, make easy shells, or you have the 3 IS-3s go one way and you have the IS-3 come from another way, so you split the fire from those T-54 lightweights, or you force them to shoot one, and it allows the other IS-3 to shoot from behind. But I think, it was a very... I think I can see the nerves there in Oops in that round.
Well, they had the setup. They were pushing together as a group. We saw them head towards that north side. I mean, the Seish spotted them out. He soon met his demise. You're right, they had the overmatch. I mean, we'll want to talk about that a little bit more, because it was a 1 T-32 of Fighter Line and 2 IS-3s there. If Oops had pushed a bit earlier on that one, if they'd maybe taken sort of just gone for it, taken the opportunity, I mean, was the setup good enough for the lightweights on the middle road? Could they have just ploughed through those IS3s and then maybe had a better position, or were they always going to be walking into a trap?
I think it's hard, but the IS3, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it with the IS3s. The IS3 is great against T54. You can bounce a lot of shells. T54 Light has a good rate of fire, but it's not that great.
Right.
So if you do miss a shell, you still have to wait, 6 seconds basically for another one. So, and only 250 damage when you have 1,500 HP. I think, again, Oops came close. I think they should have just committed more. They should have just gone for it, taken down those IS3s, not go for the peeking game. And they also, they all just came in a long line of ducks. I think one of them should have gone on the flank. There's a rock there sitting just slightly out from where the tanks of WUSA were. You just put the IS3 there, and you can shoot from more than one angle. It can also just side scrape or reverse side scrape.
So now you've seen a little bit of Oops now. We haven't seen any of them yet before. We've heard good things about them. What's your take, I guess, on these first couple of rounds? I mean, as a team, it seems like the potential's there, but this is it. This is single elimination. Do they have what it takes?
I think they do. I mean, this is kind of testing the water for them. I think they're a little bit rusty, maybe, and they need to warm up. But I think both rounds have been close enough that this won't be a 5-0, and I think WUSA is going to lose a couple of these rounds. If I was going to say, I think the defensive side of Lakeville is slightly easier in some respects, but and that's definitely what the stats say. But I would say if Oops need to start working now. They need to get 1 or 2 rounds on the board here. They need to put pressure on WUSA. Simply, as you mentioned, because the statistics of WUSA aren't great on Lakeville. They haven't won basically anything. And Oops have got a better chance there, and this is their map of choice.
Well, let's jump into this one now and see what happens as the tides turn and the teams change sides. Of course, now we're going to be seeing Oops on the defensive side. Or at least a chance for them just to sort of sit back on this one as much as possible here. As again, ladies and gentlemen, we apologise. The names are incorrect. Oops is in the red and WUSA is in the blue. So the push out here from the lightweights here from WUSA. Again, they're going to set up sort of towards that valley here. Can Oops find a chink, I guess, in WUSA's armour as well and exploit the fact that they've seen a fair bit of WUSA on this map. You can go through the VODs and find it. They're not hard to sort of locate here. Let's see if they got anything set for this round.
Yeah, so this is going to be the real test for WUSA, I think. A very slow and static team, and definitely perhaps one of the main reasons why they've just done really badly this season. So let's see if they can just be aggressive and show some volition, show some poise, some pounce here against Oops. And if their attacking force is good enough, I would be surprised. I think this 3T54 lightweight stack is good. If they can get Grosser and Samu down as quickly as possible, and they have managed to find him, they've caught him out, he could actually fall.
Here's a push on towards the cap here. Sanya having to back away. Takes a lot of damage. Spoik one shot in response here. The cap is underway here. WUSA are staking their claim for this bit of real estate here. Shots towards Sanyo does leave him in a one-shot down. Grosser will be the next target. Oops need to get in position. They need to set up for this one. You can see the 3090 there. Off in the distance here. I'm not even going to bother trying to pronounce that one. That is horrendous for me. But okay, the capture is underway, and Klana and Somewhere pushed up in those IS3s. 3090 getting in position as well. Ducky and Honeyfrack also trying to do something here, but it's just a firing squad again for WUSA. They can set up and just have shots out from the city.
Yeah, I mean, this is just so one-sided right now. This is total destruction. Grosser's dead. Already got Samu down. That's 2 T54s. The IS3s are caught between, wanting to defend that right side, which they were at the beginning, and trying to get back to their base to get the decap. You don't have any resource allocation from Oops. They're not going to try and take down Siege or Line or Still Mojo. They just seem to be sitting in no man's land.
The cap's going to be done here. WUSA going to be able to push on here. Somewhere won't get there quick enough to get the reset, and that is a very, very quick round. And I mean, red-faced would Oops have to be after that one there? It seemed like, I don't know. I mean, it's almost reminiscent of what we saw from ASAP for like the first couple games of the season. I'm not trying to single them out as well. It's just I remember it was one of the first games that we cast. This indecision, it seems to be a problem right now. I mean, Oops have the pieces. They have what they need, I guess, to put this together and make a win for themselves. But something is getting lost in translation here. Something mid-round is just falling apart for them.
Yeah, I think they just... I mean, that was just pure destruction. You had such a quick reaction from the T54 lightweights of WUSA. They just went straight in the cap. They put so much pressure on. Samu just wasn't expecting it. You had the T54 kind of sitting in the middle of nowhere. And you know, once that T54 goes down, you lose so much presence in that central area, which, you know, Grosser tried to make up for. But he was between the wreck of Samu and also the rest of the WUSA boys. So he had a really awkward place. I thought as well, you know, the IS3 trying to get back to the cap, just not good. I would say that if Oops wants to win, I think the 3 IS3s and a T54 down low, have the rest of the tanks up, you know, 4 and 6, whatever, and just prepare for what WUSA would provide, because, you know, they're using 4 T54 lightweights. That's very indicative that they're going to push through that either the middle or through that western side, because
of the mobility you have.
The mobility, and at the end of the day, you know, when you look at the lineup there from Oops, very heavy. T32s, IS3s, and that's not something you can actually win against if you go 1-on-1 with against an IS3 with the T54 even.
And Oops as well, what we know about them as well, they do favour this slower style here, and this might work against them as defenders now, as a WUSA, you know, kind of the team that wants to set the pace here, and they have been, especially in these last couple of matches. Do Oops need to take more control of that western side of the map? I mean, do they need to leave more resources back at that cap? Because you saw, to try and defend against the push of those lightweights on, all they had was their own couple of lightweights just around the corner, and they were taken down so quickly because WUSA moved in numbers.
Yeah, I think Oops try to have all the bases covered, but at the same time, none of them covered.
Yeah.
I would say, you know, you saw what WUSA did, very fast reaction with the T54s, just sitting themselves up and towards that left side, you know, ready for a push. Also, what a lot of teams have been doing, using a T21 or T37, sitting in a bush just on that left side as well, just ready and waiting, just spotting out. Then you have time to send whatever you have, IS3s, either in towards that city to get the overmatch against the IS3s that are there for the other team, which is, you know, a questionable tactic, or just react nicely with your T54s, you know, prop up your defenses in that base and, you know, deal with it like that. But I would say, you know, Oops just need to get themselves sorted here. They just need to kind of calm themselves down, because this is starting to slip away from them. 3 rounds in a row has gone towards WUSA. The first 2 rounds were pretty close. That 3rd round was a complete annihilation. And, you know, having played a whole season of Silver Series, being beaten to the punch just by the smallest of margins by Carmen's team, you really don't want to be losing to WUSA, who just, you know, had a pretty crash and burn season.
I mean, it's a tough run for Oops, to be honest. You know, just missing out, of course, on automatically qualifying, and then the way our bracket work out, of course, is that it is randomised, providing that a few, you know, rules are followed in terms of, you know, wildcard teams not going head to head. So this is tough for them as well. I mean, there's no seeding for this. It's not seeded in that way as well, because all of our teams, you know, qualifying for this one, we consider them to be sort of, you know, of a similar skill level here, which is obviously not the case. That's the way we do it. So, you know, Oops now, their last chance on Lakeville to get a map, I mean, a round, should I say. WUSA, with their strongest performance we've seen this season on Lakeville, it seems like they really have their stuff together. And to be fair, considering that they probably didn't have a heck of a lot of notice, not as maybe much as the WGL. I mean, the last couple of days, you know, teams that weren't sure who they were playing because of the way that's sort of working. So, you know, this has been tough for Oops. They've got to dig their heels in, though. And the question is, are WUSA going to be the gatekeepers here? Are they going to make their way all the way through this single elimination bracket and just, you know, tell all these teams to go back to the Silver Series? Or will someone usurp them? Right now, this is one of the strongest teams from Silver Series and Wildcard Tournament here. Oops, on screen right now. And they're not able to really put much of a scratch on WUSA.
Yeah, it's going pretty badly for them. We'll have to see how their next round goes, the next defensive round. But, you know, it's a hard slog to get in through the relegations. You have so many tournaments in such a small amount of time. The system this season is a lot more complicated than last season. You know, we've got wildcard tournaments, we've got pre-relegations, we've got the relegations again. So you have this period of time, less than a week, where at the beginning of the week you have no idea which teams are going to go. You only know a couple of things, that some of the Gold Series teams are going to be there, some of the Silver Series teams. I mean, Silver Series ended on the 3rd of September, on last Thursday. And then you had the wildcard tournaments on Friday. Then you had the weekend, and then you had pre-relegation, and then you had relegation. So literally within 4 days, you've gone from not knowing any teams to having all the teams here. So you've had very little time to actually prepare. These teams, you know, are just thrown into the thick of it. And I think it definitely provides for the most entertaining matches, but also an environment where you do have to thrive under pressure, and that's definitely what we want from a Gold Series team next season.
I haven't seen that tank in so long. The
Toilet
M6,
tank, boys.
Well, we call it the Big Head or the Mutant. It's a premium tank that is not available anymore. Used to be way back.
It was a heavy
crazy.
package from when the game was released.
Yeah, like way back. Super rare tank. I mean, let's talk about it here. Like, why bring it into this one? Of course, it's well armored, and I guess hull down is a possibility. It's like a high profile. A JP2 as well. This is what I said about Oops. They're bringing some wacky stuff in.
Yeah, this is super wacky from them. I would say that obviously the biggest thing would be that they
Tog as well.
They got a Tog. I mean, guys, this is something unbelievable. I mean, seriously, I've never seen anything like this. Gross also getting taken down to half HP, but yeah, I mean, toilet tank. It's very tall. I mean, the toilet's pretty tall if you consider its function, and you know, it can definitely shoot over things which most tanks can't. But this thing, I used to farm in my T32, in my T29 in the beta, so I just don't like it as a tank. I don't think it's particularly effective. And once again, Sanyo does get caught out.
All right, well, Sanyo going to back away again. Oops not leaving much to defend this cap with. Just a couple lightweight and Grosser in the T32. It's such a position that has to back away. There come the salvos of shots now out from the defenders here as Oops is trying to chunk Spoink down. A lot of shots in for only half of his health there. They're going to have to do a little bit more if they want to clean him up there. Zenector will get a very easy finish now. And the 3090 of GIF is going to be pushing up here to join Grosser. Again, Jagd Panther 2 off on the distance. Such a potent tank. But Oops, are they hedging themselves into another damned if you do, damned if you don't situation here? There's a presence in the city for WUSA as well as on this cap. And they can move in and start their process whenever they like.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is super awkward for Oops because if they push forwards, they have the situation where they can take down Spoink really quickly, but then they got Der Zenichter and FKK Schnitzel. Obviously, if Grosser had managed to survive a little bit longer or had not taken so much damage when he headed up, it would have been a totally different situation. But yeah, this Tog is just going to provide a wall, a piece of scenery for Oops to sit behind with the toilet tank, which is very tall and can shoot over it, which of course the Jagd Panther can't do, which of course the T30 can't do either.
It's like an M6 hull on the...
exactly.
It is an M6 hull, yeah, okay. Whack. All right, well, JP to have to back away. Ducky does cop a couple of hits, and yes, the sloped armor at the front of the Jagd Panther is fairly good. But they're more thinking about using that gun and trying to bring it to bear right now. WUSA are just chunking Oops down. Oops maybe feeling like they've got nothing to lose at this stage to go for something a little bit wacky, but the problem is the 3090 and Grosser on the T32 can't get shots on the side of those tanks up on the southwestern side of the map near that cap. So this is really, really bad for Oops here. The setup isn't great. Somewhere Clanner looking in a different direction to Ducky and Honeyfrack here. The Tog, I guess, you know, Ducky wants to be able to get shots out from behind this one here, but it's just a bit of a cheesy strat. I don't know if it's going to work out there as the Tog has soaked up the maximum amount of damage it can.
I think there's some just team damage there from Ducky. I mean, he is hull down behind that Tog just a little bit. He can't actually shoot over it, but no, this is game over. Like, come on, let's be honest here. Oops are just getting crushed. I'd say WUSA are making a little bit of a meal out of it, kind of disjointed, but they just don't seem to be really concentrating. But Lion finds that T32 and, you know, Ducky and somewhere left.
Six stars go down, but that is not much of a consolation here for Oops as they're getting completely overrun. I could have sworn that T32 was firing HE towards Vitaline there before, and he took 14 damage. Somewhere, I mean, this is not really where you want to be in this tank. The hull is just not well armored at all. It's the head, it's the hull down capacity there. So somewhere's going to get taken down, and you see there's going to be a swarm over on the north as well. And this is Oops just falling apart. WUSA showing us at the very least that they deserve to be here, at least in this tournament, and they have turned up today. Only losing one tank in that little stoush. 4-0 on... It's funny, last couple of days we see a lot of these really one-sided results. 4-0 on Lakeville here to WUSA. Yep. Oops just not able to step up to the plate today. Yeah, we chose this match because we thought it'd be the best match of the day. You got WUSA, who's the best Gold Series team coming out of pre-relegation, coming out of the wildcard tournament. And then we thought, okay, so we got Oops, who barely, managed to lose out on first and Silver Series, so the second Silver Series team. So we thought that the two best teams coming up against each other here. But right now, this is WUSA we've been missing from the whole season, being beaten by everyone basically in the normal season. They've turned up right now. They crushed the opposition in wildcard tournament. They seem to be crushing the opposition here as well. 4-0 ahead, heading to our second map. Bit of a new look WUSA as well, of course, with FKK Schnitzel sort of rejoining the lineup after a brief stint with Castor Crew 4 this season. And it's a great showing for them as well. We haven't seen a clean sweep map from WUSA all season, of course. They've only got the 2 wins. I think one of them was in a tiebreak, and that's why they got leapfrogged by ASAP. I think because ASAP got, I think, 2 wins. They had 6 points, and WUSA only had 5. That was the big difference between those two. So, all right, here we are. Now, on the brink, on the precipice of seeing WUSA actually having to bow out of this one at a very early stage here.
Sure.
We're going to be moving on to steps as well, mixing things up here. Lakefield was supposed to be WUSA's draw card. It was supposed to be their home ground, and it's definitely turned out to be hostile territory for them.
Yeah, I think right now, just looking at the last tank picks, okay, you know, you've got to pick some weird stuff, and it can possibly work out for you. We've seen that some, you know, even from the top teams, you know, Carnival picked up by Team Supreme. We saw 6 KV5 yesterday, but still, I mean, you know, I think they're in tilt mode. I think it's going to be a 5-0 clean sweep for WUSA right now. Oops is pretty much down and out. I don't think they can come back from this one. Again, we haven't seen a team really be able to come back from a 4-0 deficit. So, especially not against WUSA, who, you know, these guys, you got to remember, 4th last season, was it, no, 5th last season in the Season 5. So, of course, you know, the changes, it's now Season 1, but it was Season 5 last time. So, technically, this is Season 6. But, you know, enough of that. So, yeah, Season 5, 4th, like 5th place. Very respectable showing for them. And I think they're back. I think FKK Schnitzel was definitely, you know, someone who were missing. I think if Nia Pizzorni decides to come back from his Caribbean holiday, wherever he's going, it will be even more of a formidable lineup. I don't see any weaknesses in WUSA, you know, with Nia Pizzorni as well, or without him.
Well, this is the thing, though. On paper, all season, we're saying WUSA, not unlike Penta, have a very strong lineup. They have a collection of very good players. You know, your Stefans, who, by the way, you know, obviously isn't here tonight.
Karate Kid.
Is he Karate Kid? Yeah, who's not even playing tonight as well.
Yeah.
Like, his stats are ridiculously good. He's a very good player, and for a young bloke as well. I think he's probably playing soccer at the moment.
Yeah, he's
football,
probably playing,
as we call it over here. But he's auspiciously not present. We're seeing, but still some big names as well. Derzanita, FKK Schnitzel, of course, back in the lineup. Fighty line as well. Definitely a top player for WUSA. Hallucinogen in the lineup. They have a lot of flexibility as well. Player after player is a very high caliber player in their own right here. Yeah. This season, they've struggled to make ends meet. They've struggled to actually translate from paper their sort of advantage onto the battlefield here. It's a long process sometimes as well, working on gelling, working on sort of getting that sort of team vibe together. And we can only hope that now things are starting to happen a bit more for WUSA. This could be the shake-up they needed from this season. I mean, coming into it, being 5th, of course, at our Season 5 finals, thinking, all right, we got this. Walking into a very, well, a scary new world, Season 1 has been for them now. They've had time to adapt to it and to see what happens when they rebuild.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, of course, you know, just a bit of a merge of TCM Gaming with Zanicta and Still Mojo as well. So, you know, a very experienced team. Of course, they had some issues. They couldn't join us for this season, so we had to have that open qualifier because they didn't have 50% of the players. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Right now, though, I would say, you know, this is WUSA heading to the semi-finals.
All right, well, WUSA off to a good start here. Let's have a look, though, of course, to our second map of the night. It's going to be none other than the open steps.
Steps, the most open map of the league. The attacking team appears near the rocks at the bottom of the map, and the defending team starts at the top. Bases are located near the railway and on the green. The best way to control them is to use the lowland near the second base. The attacking team usually unfolds the attacks from the rocks and the railway, but sometimes they can attack through the green. Teams often drag vehicles from flank to flank, so both teams usually pick light setups, but sometimes use tanks with a strong turret, and even SPGs.
Okay, oops, going into this one, I almost said with a more standard lineup, and then I had to change my mind, going for a very Utopia-esque lineup for T32s.
Yeah, so, I mean, T32 is not too unusual on this one, and 4 still not too unusual. We see them sometimes. Normally a team would pick only 1 or perhaps sometimes 2, but just going for a lot of hit points here. And I'd say, you know, Oops has a chance to put a couple on the board, you know, being on the defensive side and, you know, having WUSA, who, despite we are speculating, you know, having fixed their problems from the season, still not the strongest team in the world, and you know, they would struggle when you have a clear strategical advantage.
Derzanista is the first tank for WUSA to sort of be heading towards the northern side. He's rolled over the train line and is looking for any of those tanks from Oops who have pushed up. Similarly, Hunting Frack in the 59-16. Does have a very nice camo ready on that one, but has been forced to back away. The blind shots clanging in towards him has requited this movement. He's going to head up to maybe a bit more of a standard spot to be spotting from here. Of course, fallen trees don't give you camouflage. It's got to be bushes that are sort of there already. You can see Oops now. Not surprising to see the setup here with the T32s in the Valley. Let's see how WUSA tries to crack this one.
Yeah, so, I mean, WUSA's just going to try and make the blind shot. I'm pretty surprised Honeyfrag did actually move from that place, because I'm pretty sure he wasn't spotted. And, you know, even if you get blind shot, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to die. And it's been one of the big factors on this map the whole season. You know, you got players in bushes. Teams are shooting 2 or 3 shells into the same bush and then saying, okay, so we shot enough shells in there, he can't be alive, but maybe one of them bounced, one of them hit the track, or one of them just simply missed because he just aimed in the wrong location. So this is actually what's happening right now. Honeyfrag's being in that exact situation, and it's going to be very important for WUSA to take him down. I'd say even if WUSA managed to find Honeyfrag, they're going to put FKK Schnitzel into the cap immediately, or whatever T54, or they're just going to be able to push from multiple locations. But again, you know, WUSA, they'll have to be very wary of the fact that, you know, Oops has so many T32s. Nice shot there by Hallucinogen, finally finds Honeyfrag. But again, Oops have so many T32s, they'll have a really wide range, a very quick reload on the blind shots towards the cap. So that's going to be a risky move from WUSA, but at the same time, if it does pay off, those T32s will pay for their immobility.
One takedown so far for Oops, the 59-16, of course. Trying to get the lights on any sort of capture attempt that would have happened, and now Oops don't have that available to them, so they have to try and get some spots somehow, and they can't let it get too close as well. They can't risk, you know, trying to drag a 32 across the field to try and get recess. It's just not going to work out. So CG's got himself set up here to get some cheeky little flanking shots. He's already taken one in response here, so I don't really know how well that's working out, but Ducky is getting chunked down a little bit here. Do bear in mind that Still Mojo on that M44 is in a position to capitalize on any spotting that he's done to get some shots down. We saw some amazing M44 play in our last couple match days of the season, especially our playoff stage as well. That was almost the deciding factor in some games. Will it be here? That's the question. Ducky again getting chunked right on down. T32 not super maneuverable here, as you said, Oliver, and Ducky's just forced to back off that defilade, taking a little bit more damage than he would like.
Yeah, so Still Mojo just has to start hitting the shells. I don't think he's done any damage so far, and good job by the T32 just to move backwards and forwards to avoid everything. But time is running out for WUSA, to be fair. You know, FKK Schnitzel just gets reset, and, you know, that's the main problem, as I said before, for those T32s, constantly be able to shoot. And you can see WUSA seem to be a little bit of a loss. And as long as Oops just, you know, stay steady and, you know, don't receive too much artillery damage, which, of course, Gift Frosch.
Let's call him Gif.
Gets hit for 700 odd damage from Still Mojo.
Frosch, isn't that frog? Maybe, I'm not sure. For me. Oh, that's a big hit though, as I say, the man. Gift just gets wrecked by Still Mojo, shot in towards the side. And a complete and utter penetration leaves that T32 on a one-shot. Clanner now just trying to back off that hill. Ducky and Sanyo off towards the left here. And Oops are running out of pieces again. They don't have the resources they need to really make a serious orchestration of this one. And you can see that WUSA are getting in position. They're circling like vultures on their prey. Of course, is going to be Oops now. Vitaline going a little bit far forward here. Wants to get a shot towards Sanyo, but oh, that's a big roll from Ducky. Big 500 damage taken right off him now. And that's a 2 big hits of forcing Vitaline away. Getting a little bit ahead of himself. But now Smoke's going to be pushing on as well. Clanner, Grossa, and Gift going to be sitting together on those T32s. Now they're going to get focused right on down. They have decent armor on the turret, but not on the hull. And Still Mojo again chimes in with a big hit on towards Grossa. He is making life hell for these T32s right now. But WUSA now going to bringing in the big guns. The T54 is going to be rolling straight over the hill. Hallucinogen able to bounce that one over from Gift. He will bounce his own shot as well. Grossa now looking towards Hallucinogen, but FKK Schnitzel is up behind him as well. Bit by bit, systematically, Oops are getting picked apart by WUSA.
Yeah, this is really, really good now from WUSA. They got the damage necessary with the M44, you know, about 1,500, 2,000 damage by Still Mojo, and that gave them away. And you can see, like, the HP from WUSA is not ideal. That's the T32 factor coming into the game, and you know, it's going to be WUSA's game, of course. I think Samoa did a great job on that right side, but it simply wasn't enough. You know, Still Mojo, perfect pick up by him, perfect use of artillery, and they're simply going to be game over.
That's it, done and dusted, and that's unfortunately Oops' chances to make it in towards the Gold Series. Qualified through Silver, played a great season there, but unfortunately gate kept by WUSA. And WUSA, of course, in and of themselves now have a chance to make it through back in towards the Gold Series. It wouldn't be the same without them, there's no doubt about it here, and they are showing us exactly why they deserve to be there. Still Mojo, will he get the finish or just a ran? This is a little bit awkward way to finish things off here, Mojo. Oh dear. Somewhere it will be live for just a moment here. Both these tanks circle and get the finish on somewhere. Caps also being done as well. It should be over in moments, and WUSA have made it through to the next round. Single elimination is unforgiving. I think Spoy's been ammo racked here. Is that why he's not firing?
He shot already, but he missed his shot.
All right. Well,
it went somewhere.
That's a bit awkward. Somewhere, obviously still alive, and that is obviously still very small consolation to be taken away from this one. The game does go to WUSA 5-0, an absolute stomp there as well. Shame.
Yeah, massive shame. I'm really disappointed by that. I thought Oops would be able to provide some sort of fight here. I mean, of course, you know, WUSA being on the form they are, you know, I guess it's that point where you go all the way to the bottom, and then that's, you know, the point where you say, okay, I actually need to sort my stuff out here and get back to the top. So it seems like WUSA's kicked into gear. Shane a little bit late because I'd love to see them at the finals, which of course have been announced on worldoftanks.eu. We got a barbecue thread up there, so you got to sign up there if you want to get some barbecue. Everyone likes a barbecue. Come on. In this beautiful Cologne, Germany, it should be sunny in September. But yeah, I mean, impressive performance by WUSA. I thought the first 2 rounds were the kind of pioneer rounds for Oops. Close, but not close enough for them to, you know, get a comeback going.
So they definitely scratched the surface, maybe dinged up the paint of WUSA a little bit there, but again...
3k damage by Stillmojo, by the way.
Oh, really? 3k damage?
Yeah, in the M44.
You shouldn't be saying that on stream. You got 5 shots. We only
He's trying to live up to the likes of Kusok, of course, Eurofish.
Yeah, Eurofish.
Who's a legend.
Killer Pit as well. Clicker Pit, as it was. Well, I mean,
Rip.
I don't really want to inflate Stillmojo's head too much there, but that's probably the best performance of an M44 we've seen.
I reckon Eurofish is on his account.
Yeah. Stillmojo. Well, I mean, he's trying to make up for it because I ripped on him when he got wrecked. I think it was up against Kazna. I think he got pushed onto by 5 IS3s and just had to sit there and do nothing. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen. We do digress, and that is our first match of the night done. We have our first team dropping away out of the bracket, of course, and it is so obviously the round of 8 is what we're casting here, so there are other games that are happening at the moment. So what we're going to be doing, of course, is be going to a break. We're going to be waiting to see the results of our other matches, so we'll go to a 10-minute break. If we need to extend that, we will. Better for you guys to sit back and just chill and get a drink instead of listen to us sort of waffle on. So we'll be back soon, ladies and gentlemen. After this break, we'll be jumping into our first semi-final here of the WGL EU Relegation Tournament. Some great games coming up. Don't miss them.